Am I the a-hole for reminding my sister she was deemed not fit to adopt when she wanted to adopt one of my twins? Me and my sister Mia both suffer from fertility issues. I made peace with it long ago. But Mia always wanted kids, so she and her husband kept trying. From IVF to adoption, all of them resulted in dead end. Then I recently found out that I was 2 months pregnant with twins, and my partner Kyle and I were surprised but happy. I called up my sister and told her the news, and said I was going to announce it to the family at a gathering at my house. I expected her to be angry, as she has been with other family members for getting pregnant, and told her it was okay if she couldn't come, and felt it would be too much for her. Surprisingly, she said she was okay, and therapy had helped, and agreed to come. So 3 days ago, I hosted a family gathering at our place, and announced it via watching pictures on a projection screen, and the last photo being my ultrasound. Immediately, all family members looked at me and they understood. All of them congratulated me and Kyle, including Mia and her husband. Mia kept really close to me throughout the gathering, and asked to see the ultrasound multiple times, which me and Kyle brushed off to her being happy for me. That night, Mia called me and said she had something important to say. She wanted to adopt one of the twins. I was appalled. I said I'm not giving my twins up for adoption. She kept trying to encourage me to give in, and said it would be the right thing to do since we were twins as well. I was getting pissed off and told her I couldn't, even if I wanted to, since all adoption agencies had rejected her application and deemed her unfit to raise a child. She started crying, called me a witch, and said I didn't deserve to be mother, and wished that children not be born to a mother like me. I hung up at that. Since then, my mother and some paternal aunts who also suffer from the same fertility issues have been texting and messaging me, calling me inconsiderate and selfish. Kyle, my dad, and maternal family are with me on this. But my mother says since we didn't plan the baby, it wouldn't hurt to give away one of the twins, especially when she would still be in the family. I have seen Mia break down during other relatives' pregnancy announcements and be hysterical. I genuinely thought she was okay with my pregnancy after her being in therapy, but apparently not. Still, I did say those things to her knowing it would hurt her. Some maternal aunt said it was probably a mood swing, but I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and you need to move. Somewhere that she doesn't have the address. It very, very likely will not stop here. It will escalate and it will get horrible. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that insanity. Jesus Christ. I would be putting immediate distance, as much as possible between us after that. Also, ask Mia to raise this request with her therapist. Let's see what sort of a reality check she gets there. It would be such a fun session. Sister, can you believe my sister? She's having twins, and she thinks I'm evil for asking her for one. I mean, she has 2. Why can't she share? Therapist, shocked Pikachu face. Not the a-hole. What an utterly ridiculous request. Who on earth would willingly hand their baby over to a relative upon a request? You are simply giving me a dose of reality. I think what's worse is their mother apparently agrees with Mia. No, they weren't planned. Just give one up. You won't notice the difference. I honestly don't know what I would do if my mother uttered something so horrible. Reading it gave me violent thoughts. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry you're going through this. But Mia's fertility issues are not your issues, and she has absolutely no right to ask you to give up one of your children. I would strongly recommend you go low/no contact with your family for the duration of your pregnancy, both for your safety and your sister's mental health. And never let sister or family that's on sister's side be alone with the twins, not even for a split second. One baby and sister might just disappear forever. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my best friend's girlfriend out during a dinner party because of something she said? I, 19 female, am 5 months pregnant. It was not planned at all, but my fiancé, Barry, 21 male, and I decided to go ahead with a pregnancy after considering our options for a long time. My best friend, Theo, 20 male, has been nothing but supportive and helpful. Theo got into a pretty serious relationship a few months ago, but I have never met her. So I suggested we have a dinner party and invite some other friends as well. Ava, 23 female, seemed very sweet at first, but then I noticed that she seemed cold towards me. I thought it was just me, but Barry asked me about it as well. I thought she may just be having a hard time surrounded by new people, so I didn't make a big deal out of it. We all sat down to have dinner, and Ava asked me how my pregnancy was going. I thanked her for asking and said it was all right. I steered the conversation to another topic just because I didn't want that to be the topic of the night. It was all right from then onwards for a while, and Ava seemed to get along well with everyone. I was feeling a bit tired, so I excused myself and went to get a cold drink. When I came back, my friends were just making sure I was okay. It asked me if we should wrap up the party early, and I said no. Ava then made a comment about pregnancy being hard, and I agreed with her, saying it's the hardest thing ever. She then said, "No offense, but why the hell did you guys consider termination?" while laughing. I felt like that was such an awkward thing to ask. No one really answered, but then Barry said it just wasn't something we could do. He asked everyone if they needed more drinks in an attempt to change the topic, but Ava continued. She said something along the lines of, "You guys know you're ruining your life, right?" Like, yikes. Still laughing. So I told her, a bit rudely, to please not say things like this since I was feeling uncomfortable. She replied saying she was just brutally honest and that people liked that about her. And I was thinking, I just met this girl. I just couldn't deal with this for the rest of the night. So I told her to please get out and maybe learn some manners. And I guess she didn't expect me to say it, but she did get out. Theo was so angry at me and said I was ruining him and just left with her. After a few awkward moments, our other friends supported my decision and we had a good night. Yesterday, Theo messaged me for the first time after the incident and told me that Ava was refusing to speak to him. And he said, "Thanks, I hope you're happy." I don't know why that specific sentence just made me feel guilty. I believe I may have been the a-hole. She was a new member of the group, and maybe I was overreacting and she didn't mean to insult me. Barry thinks otherwise, but he may be biased, so... Edited to clarify. 1. Ava is not child-free, according to what Theo told me. 2. I'm pro-choice and have no problems with other women choosing the procedure. It's just something Barry and I don't personally agree with in our lives. She replied saying she was just brutally honest, and that people liked that about her. Opie, nobody likes that about her. I cannot stand people who use "I'm just being honest" as an excuse to be rude and insulting to others. Ava sounds like a nasty piece of work, and you weren't wrong to kick her out. Her comment and subsequent doubling down were outrageously out of line. Theo is also completely wrong to be mad at you, and I think some distance from him might not go amiss. However, unless he is known to do this kind of thing himself, I'd keep an eye on him. The fact that he doesn't appear to acknowledge how awful Ava was to you, and that she's taking this out on him, is raising a few red flags for me. I think it's possible that the relationship might be abusive. Not at a-hole. This. I really hate when people say that. Because, it's a lie, and they just want to be rude whenever they feel like it. Opie's not at a-hole, by the way. Not at a-hole. She doesn't know you. So who does she think she is to bring that up in conversation? It's disgusting, really. In addition to this, it's sounding like your friendship with Theo was a problem for her. Especially if your partner also noticed her cold behavior. Insecurity, most likely. Some women don't like it when their significant other have a female bestie. Don't quote me on it, but it's just a feeling I have. Oh my god, that's such a good point. It didn't even cross my mind that she might have intentionally made a show of putting Opie in her place to make her feel more secure about her boyfriend. Not at a-hole. People who describe themselves as brutally honest are just a-holes who don't want to be held accountable for their actions. Not at a-hole. For someone who loves brutal honesty so much, she sure doesn't seem to be handling it so well. I think you should tell Theo, I'm going to take a page from Amy's book and be brutally honest. She was rude to me. Don't expect me to tolerate rudeness from strangers. Next story. Am I the a-hole for lying to my husband's grandmother about the severity of an injury she caused to my son? My husband's paternal grandmother has an, "oh, don't worry, everything will work out fine" mentality. I didn't think it extended to the safety of newborn babies, though. Or I never would have let her babysit my 3-month-old son, even for just 3 hours. About a week and a half ago, while she was babysitting, I got a call from her saying my son had a bit of a tumble. I heard my son screaming in the background, and my instinct said something was extremely wrong. So I said to get off the phone with me and call an ambulance, then call me back and tell me what happened once the ambulance was on the way. She started hand-waving it with, "I don't think we need to bother with an ambulance," Babies are tougher than they look, you know? Basically made of rubber. When I said he sounded like he was hurt, she admitted he had a bit of a scrape and a bruise. And when I pushed further, she said it was on his head. I hung up and called the ambulance myself because I wasn't about to sit there and waste time trying to convince this idiot that a head injury in a 3-month-old baby is a serious thing. My absolute hero of a boss drove me to the hospital because I was in no state to drive, and I needed to be on the phone to notify my husband and then get the full story from his grandmother. It turns out she not only dropped my son, she dropped him while walking down the stairs. So I fell onto the second from bottom step and hit his head on the third from bottom step. She then wasted time calling her son, who told her she should probably call me or my husband. At the hospital, she kept being dismissive, saying I was overreacting and my son would be fine, until I made her leave. As it turns out, my son has a minor fracture in his skull, which will heal on its own, though it will take a couple of months. We are so incredibly lucky. The doctor said a fall like that could have easily caused a life-threatening brain injury, and my husband's grandmother hesitating to call an ambulance absolutely could have increased this risk of serious disability or death. I was furious with her, but I felt she should know my son was okay. So I called her, but when she answered my call with, "What did I tell you? He's fine, isn't he?" Her condescending tone and blasé attitude to my son's safety pissed me off. So I said, "Actually, we're still not sure if he's going to make it." Then the apologies and the guilt and the distress came out. My husband called her later to tell her my son would be fine, and my husband's father and grandmother are really mad. They think it was a dirty trick to lie to an old lady about her great-grandson's injury, but my husband and I maintain that she deserved to feel bad about what happened to my son. She obviously wasn't until she thought his life was in danger. I, for one, will never let her near my son again, but I hope she'll now be more careful about the safety of any other children she has care over. Now for the comments. Not today, Hall, but that's a woman who should no longer be allowed to be alone with children. She's a danger to them. Her husband's grandmother and father should not be allowed alone with children. The grandmother is what you said, and I wouldn't allow the father alone with a kid because A, he doesn't seem to grasp the seriousness of the situation even when his mother called. B, he is enabling his mother. And C, I wouldn't take a chance of letting husband's father allowing his mother to take the kid when they're with him because great-grandma misses her little bug. I so agree. I hope he has the perfect card to play too. Because grandma didn't call an ambulance right away, CPS is involved and made it clear that if we let you watch child again, well, they might remove the child. We love you, but baby was really hurt and we don't want to risk it. Not today, Ho. If she was the parent, she'd be investigated for neglect. I say this as a doctor. She is scarily blasé. It absolutely should not be left unattended around children. She still can be. Since she was the caregiver for the child when the injury occurred, she absolutely can be investigated and charged. Not today, Ho. My in-laws pulled that crap on me. My son was 5 months old and grandparents were watching so we could go to a football game. Father-in-law dropped my son on his head on concrete, and they didn't even call me. I got back to a scratched-up baby. They didn't call us or take him to any doctor. I still haven't really forgiven my father-in-law, and my son is 6, and mother-in-law passed away last year. If we had another child, I would not trust him to watch them. Not today, Ho. Actually, I don't think you really lied/exaggerated that bad. I'm a nurse, and you can't be too sure with head injuries with a baby or child. A lot can happen in the first 72 hours, and there's never any guarantee. How terrifying that must have been for you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted to what my sister said to me at my daughter's 16th birthday party? My brother-in-law and my sister were divorced when he got into a serious auto accident 8 years ago and spent days in the ICU before he eventually passed. My niece and nephew, who were 13 and 15 at the time, knew of their dad's injury and knew how much time he had left and wanted to see him before he was taken off the ventilator. Unfortunately, my sister didn't allow them. They begged, cried, tried to get to the hospital behind their mom's back, begged nurses, asked for family intervention, and so on. The kids then came to me crying, begging me to convince their mom to let them see their dad one last time. And I tried to help out, but the situation got more tense, and mom supported my sister's decision as well as my current brother-in-law, which gained her more control of the situation. My brother-in-law then passed, and the kids were devastated to learn the news from their stepdad. The kid's relationship with my sister went downhill and kept getting worse. She didn't even get them proper therapy and was busy with a new baby in the picture. My niece and nephew severed contact with my sister as soon as they moved out. They are now 23 and 21. My sister always complains about how distant her children became as soon as they moved out. And it looked to me that it never occurred to her the reason was because she deprived them of saying goodbye to their dad. She always just thought that it's because kids change when they grow up. Days ago was my daughter's 16th birthday party. We were looking at family pictures and talked about how fast kids grow up. My sister made a comment to me and my husband, saying we shouldn't get too attached or expect to be in our daughter's life in the years to come, since all kids eventually abandon their parents and act like they don't exist, just like how her children left. I was stunned, and the room got quiet. I corrected her and said her belief was wrong, and that the reason her children aren't in her life anymore was because she basically robbed them the last chance to say goodbye to their dad and get closure. She suddenly broke down, saying I don't understand the position that she was put in then, and never will. She said she had to make a decision in the midst of her grief and sorrow, and that I would never understand till I've experienced it myself. So I shouldn't doubt her decision-making, and downplay her grief because she did it for their mental health. I told her no and downplayed her grief. In fact, she's the one who did that to her kids. She could have shared how she felt with her kids, but instead shut them out and refused to let them see their dad one last time. She called me judgmental and got up and left. Mom and everyone else called me heartless. I didn't need to be harsh to my sister since she's hurting and should apologize. My husband agreed my sister was responsible for this outcome. Not today, Hall. Some people need to be told about themselves. For your sister, this was long overdue. Not today, Hall. You spoke the truth. I cannot imagine what good someone could dream would come of not allowing teenagers to say a final goodbye to their father. Not today, Hall. She had your daughter's name in her mouth saying you shouldn't get attached to her. If she was saying vague things, maybe I'd bite my tongue. But nope. Not today, Hall. Normally, I'd say that your daughter's birthday party wasn't the right place to confront her about it. But your sister brought it up. You just told her what she, frankly, needed to hear. Kids absolutely do not shut their parents out of their lives as they grow up unless there's a reason. And your sister's not helping anyone by pretending she's an innocent victim of this situation.